RFK Jr.'s Dietary Guidelines, A New Low in Corruption? Part 1 of 2. The new dietary guidelines for Americans and food pyramid have triggered the wrath of medical experts. A pyramid hasn't received so much attention since the early Egyptians. What secret dealings are buried inside? Let's find out. Some nutrition experts point out the contradiction in recommending more animal protein while keeping fat at only 10% of calories. Another complaint concerns the structure and function of the committee behind the guidelines, which appears alarmingly biased. I have an article about healthy protein intake in the works, but today, let's look at the committee and the process that produced this year's controversial dietary guidelines. A corporate committee. In case you haven't heard, and there's so much to keep track of, the Dietary Guidelines for Americans are published by the USDA Center for Nutrition and Policy Promotion, along with the Department of Health and Human Services, every 5 years. The previous guidelines ran from 2020 to 2025. In December 2024, a 20-member scientific advisory committee was appointed to review the relevant science before making recommendations for updates. They were experts in nutrition, most of them affiliated with universities. Following a change in administration in January 2025, Health and Human Services, HHS, Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins, former head of a Texas-based conservative think tank, known for recently suspending USDA financial awards to the state of Minnesota, oversaw the finalization of the new dietary guidelines and pyramid, ignoring recommendations of the initial committee. Neither has credentials in medicine or nutrition. Kennedy, after assuring the public that he would toss out the people who were writing the guidelines with conflicts of interest, installed his own set of double dealers. 7 of 9 members of his new committee have ties to livestock and high-protein supplement companies. For instance, in addition to the beef, pork, and dairy industries, Quest Nutrition, a brand that sells low-carbohydrate food products, was represented on the panel. Others with RFK Jr.'s ear include the co-founder of HLTH, a high-protein meal replacement brand focused on whey, egg whites, and hydrolyzed grass-fed collagen. The owners are close associates of RFK Jr. and the Make America Healthy Again, MAHA, movement and are positioned to make millions from their protein supplements. Needless to say, these people stand to benefit from the new guidelines. What's wrong with the new committee and the new dietary guidelines? The Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM, has filed a complaint that the HHS failed to carry out their mandatory duties in developing the guidelines. It argues that a hastily assembled panel of scientists with financial and advisory ties to meat, dairy, and fad diet industries has produced recommendations that favor the economic interests of unhealthful food industry associations over the health interests of the general public. More than half of the panel members have relationships with organizations affiliated with USDA checkoff programs, which promote food commodities without regard to their ill health effects. These individuals are statutorily prohibited from influencing governmental policy or action. Additionally, the Center for Science in the Public Interest, CSBI, identified multiple serious scientific problems with this new report, including lack of transparency. The selection of the committee occurred behind closed doors with no opportunity for public input. Inconsistent standards of evidence. This report started from a baseline assumption, or principle, that all minimally processed, naturally nutrient-dense foods are healthy, but cited no scientific justification. The report simultaneously required strong evidence to justify any recommendations that countered that assumption, including those discouraging red meat, butter, or full-fat dairy. This inconsistency in required evidence is a problem even if you agree with some of the conclusions. I'm a fan of dense nutrients and minimal processing, myself. Methodological weaknesses. Ideally, the group of experts makes recommendations after reviewing relevant studies. In this case, An inconsistent mix of panel reviews was consulted to form the guidelines. Many of these were in narrative form, which is not systematic and is prone to author bias. These reviews were often authored by a single individual, making them even more prone to bias. Errors and missing justifications that call the credibility of the entire report into question. For instance, CSBI states that nowhere in the report is scientific justification made for eliminating a limit on added sugars, as the new dietary guidelines do. I could cite more criticism, but why beat a dead horse? RFK Jr. might eat it. Economic interests, not informed health experts, are trying to control what goes into your stomach. A mass grave under the pyramid. Given the conflicts of interest and poor standards of scientific evidence, it's unsurprising that the guidelines have received massive criticism from nutritionists and those who know how an honest review committee should be organized. The message to us? Look out for who's watching the chicken house, feedlot, milking barn, and food pyramid. If people blindly follow these guidelines, increasing their consumption of industry-raised meat and dairy, money will be made. Lots of it. At our expense, both to our wallets and to our health. Okay, it's established that RFK Jr. lied and set up a corrupt committee. But while he might be a new low in corruption, is corruption new? That is, are his actions unusual in the highly political world of food policy? And what can we do to ensure the guidelines are healthy? I try to keep these posts under 1,000 words, so we'll get into these questions with next Sunday's post, RFK Jr.'s Dietary Guidelines, Your Health for Sale, again. Find these and other health-related topics on AHA. Whole Health Science, it's free. Also, if you're curious to dig into the most contentious part of the new guidelines, protein recommendations, watch for my upcoming articles on finding the right protein intake for you.